Well, we want to welcome everyone today. Thank you so much for being with us. We are just in awe of the amazing work that you are doing around the state with your English learners, your multilingual learners, your dual language learners, and their families. And we're grateful for your role as advocates and allies in this field. We are here to spend just about an hour with you today to discuss how we can continue to support content development for our multilingual learners. And we'll be focusing a bit today on dual language and the focus on virtual learning. So today's webinar is going to be hosted by CESA 2, Language and Culture Center of Excellence. And our presenter is Kimberly Romero, and she is got an extensive background in dual language and bilingual education. So we are excited to spend some time with you today. Our other team members who are on the call and going to be supporting you in the chat and afterwards are Audrey Lasandak, myself, Terry Masyarchin, and Robin Rebus. So thank you so much for being here. And Kimberly, let's go ahead and take it away.
Oh dear. I'm trying to get it to go. All right, welcome everybody. And so thank you for taking your time out this morning to join us. Today's presentation will be approximately 1 hour in length. We have added inside of our slide deck bit.ly that's you can access. Right here we have added it. It's bit.ly VL underscore plan. And then also we've added our notes and discussion page. Please post any questions, concerns, and clarifications that you would like on either one of these notes. And also here on the bottom, you can also access our chat. Today, Robin, Terry, and Audrey will be running the chat session. We will be having 3 different opportunities for us to stop and answer any burning questions that we feel that would benefit all of us as a whole. Audrey and the group will be addressing those. This presentation will be recorded. We will be sending that approximately about 48 hours after this presentation concludes. So please put yourselves on mute, your audio, and it helps if you take your video off because it helps with our transmission. So again, welcome, and I hope that you find this beneficial to all of our learning today. So we have a pretty jam-packed agenda. I will be moving, of course, rather quickly through some slides, and then I'm going to take a more deep dive into other slides to help explain my thought process and why I did what I did, and to help us understand and to move through this virtual learning experience for some of our bilingual learners and also the students in our dual language classrooms throughout the state of Wisconsin. So we'll be looking at some technology tools, but I want to spend a majority of my time today in scaffolding, student grouping, looking at our WIDA can-do descriptors, and how do we use those, because they're really critical. And then I created a dual language cross-curricular lesson plan. And then going further into that cross-curricular lesson plan, why and how do we use that to do and use for our ELL modification based on their proficiency levels? How can I reach and scaffold their learning to best benefit them? And then I also put in some other examples to further the actual unit theme and then I'll be wrapping up today. So looking at Hattie's gradual release of responsibility, which is best practice for ELLs overall. This is especially best practice for our dual language learners and ELLs in our monolingual classrooms. So Fisher and Fry updated the gradual release model to align with Hattie's synthesis of research by adding collaborative discourse. This adds the social construction of understanding that Vygotsky, so meeting the students actually right where they are in their learning process, which that's critical, and I'll be showing that and highlighting that in today's presentation. To have a deep impact on the student's level of understanding. So first up here, the purple box is the explicit instruction and modeling with our grade level standards. Again, grade level standards. So it's I do, we do, we're gonna do this together, the lesson, and then I'm gonna send this, the student to independently do this alone or asynchronous learning. So the scaffold instruction, which I'm going to show you some examples of how I'm going to take this lesson plan today, and that is some synchronous learning, and then opportunities for classroom oral discourse and peer interaction. Peer interaction and oral discourse, which is critical in our bilingual and for our bilingual students, and in dual language, where they use that peer interaction as models and to teach one another the language, whether the L1 and L2 languages for each, and their models. Then number 4, students engage in that deliberate practice. After I've given them plenty of opportunity, I've shown them what I'm looking for as the teacher. That's where practice makes perfect, or I think practice makes perfect, or they're going to have time to learn. Also is where Thomas and Collier have shown through a number of quantitative studies that the dual language education has the greatest student academic achievement results and graduation results because they have those critical thinking skills. So on to our next slide here is our engagement slide. And why did I include this is because for teachers of our ELL students is to have that mix of engagement for the students. They have to be able to have that low affective filter so I'm lowering that anxiety for the students so that they are not scared to engage in their content and linguistic content that they are being presented at whatever level, whether it's in I call it little people, kindergarten or early childhood, or all the way up if they're in their AP level coursework in the high school levels. So we have our units where I'm giving them their ability to work independently. Then I have the live and pre-recorded presentations, and I'm going to show some examples of that in my my lesson plan that I gave. I'm going to show you coming up in just a few moments. Opportunities for interaction. So am I going to put them in small chat rooms or in blended learning kind of activities, but also in small group work with me, where I can help the different levels of ELLs and ELP learning levels so that they can access that theme or that grade level material, but at their ELP levels. That's really critical, that I'm scaffolding all the way through, and I'm co-planning and I'm co-teaching. So I have a mix of asynchronous, they're doing some work by themselves, but also synchronous. So I really wanted to highlight that today in this lesson plan that I'm going to show you. And that's my thinking behind what I'm going to be going through. So where it might look really scary to some of our ELL learners, if I break it down, if I model, if I give them enough scaffolds, it won't be scary. And I set them up for success. So here I'm modeling And in the this is following the gradual release. So first, I am the person, and whether I'm teaching college level, I call them kids, I'm still doing this modeling. I have to show them what am I looking for, because they won't have anything to go off of. They don't know what I'm looking for unless I model it. So if I'm still doing it virtually, I have to show an exemplar. So this is really critical for ELLs or any kind of struggling student, as I think. So in the gradual release, modeling is key. So ELLs need to be able to, as I say, see me, the teacher, do the model in a calm, collected, methodical, very methodical way, of what it looks like, sounds like, practice it with them. And as I said, it lowers the affective filter for any type of struggling learner, as they have a point of reference and a goal of what they're shooting for. So modeling helps scaffold the lesson to meet the group of students where they are. And this is the true essence of the Vygotsky theory. So you're meeting them where they are. So I might be working with GT students also, but I still have to tell them what am I looking for and have them shoot for what am I looking for as far as an end product. So you can use this for online discussions, book clubs. Even if you are doing something very high level for research, I have to show them how to do the research. Or I have coming up, I have the notes of how to do research notes. I still have to show them how to initially start to do those things. So here you have a beautiful page. I call it a kind of a cliff note for us. I'm still in essence a teacher. This would be a down and dirty cliff note for all of us for virtual learning. And you have Flipgrid, you have and I'm going to be going into in depth today, talking to you about one in particular, Quizlet. And I've used a lot of Newsella coming up, but this is all kinds of different things that you might use. Khan Academy, Engage New York. Engage New York comes in many languages, as does Khan Academy. So today it's not, please do not think that I'm leaning towards any one language by any means. It's just a reference. So this is whatever you meet, whatever language that they might be shooting for. So here is my Quizlet slide. And the reason I want to highlight Quizlet is in my Be Glad, I'm a Be Glad trainer, they highlighted how they're using Quizlet. And they showed 30 different ways to use Quizlet. And this is particularly powerful for ELLs. And I was amazed at the different ways, because I just thought you could just use it for a quiz. Oh no, there's so many different ways. So what you can see over here, I'm going to talk about the first one over in the top right corner. So it could be, I used an easier for maybe an ELP1. Let's say that ELP1, I'm saying, so los estantes, the shelves. So I could have them label, I put up a picture, I have them label this. So maybe they're learning English, or they could have in a dual language classroom, their Spanish is at a lower level. They're just learning Spanish. So I could use this actual picture and have them label it. I thought that was a really cool idea for a possibility for learning. Another one down here below is from an actual teacher. Today, my theme is going to be los ecosistemas. And I found this, this is from a teacher in Guadalajara, Mexico. She had made this vocabulario, la cadena alimenticia, and she made this. So we're going through fichas, and this is in Spanish, of course, learning academic vocabulary to build their kelp. But you can see that there's on the inside of here, you can have them do writing, ortografía, spelling, and then there's some another part where I can have them take a quiz. But as I was fishing around into the Quizlet site, I found that you can have, there's all these different pre-made Quizlet templates and different things that under unit themes and so forth. So I found things for AP chemistry in Spanish, all over the world. It's in different languages, French, and you get the idea, Mandarin and so forth. So I could make, then the lady, she was from California, she showed another, and I thought it was so interesting. So she posed a journal question in Mandarin. And her class that she was teaching was, I believe, 4th graders. And she posed the question to them in a journal question, and she wanted them to respond orally. And they used Quizlet to respond orally, and they posted a cute photo or what have you, but they used Quizlet to respond to the oral prompt, using Quizlet. So there's many ways that, and that's why I posted the 30 different ways. So depending on what you're going to be using and what language you're going to be targeting, I thought that Quizlet might be a fantastic way to use with your ELLs. And it's at all different ELP levels. So now we've reached our CESA 2 support, and it's time for our chat and question time. So I'll turn this over to Audrey, Terry, and if Robin wants to, I don't know, join in, I will turn it over to them. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So we're just opening it up. If anybody has any questions for what we've talked about so far, please don't hesitate to add them to the chat. Okay, well, we're about 20 minutes into our presentation, so we'll just continue from this point on.
All right, thank you, Audrey. All right, so Dr. Jose Medina, he had a wonderful post that I thought that was very pertinent to today's presentation, and it's the 4 recommendations for dual language during COVID-19. Number 1, please be kind to yourself as educators. This is really hard turning over to totally going virtual or pencil and paper, depending on whatever the situation in your district is. Number 2 is to align your lessons to the program allocation plan. So to make sure that you keep in how many minutes you're supposed to be providing in that language of instruction and in the content area of instruction. So if I'm supposed to be providing Spanish in science, I need to make sure that I'm still delivering Spanish for the content language for the science. Number 3, keep the learning real. So how can I maybe turn this into, like Audrey had a presentation and I thought it was wonderful, she did a weather unit, because that's something that they can totally observe out in the real world right now. They can observe that right out their windows. Number 4, amplify the partner program language and cross-linguistic and translanguaging work. Wow, what does that completely mean? So if I'm in a dual language program, I need to make sure that I'm recognizing both languages and making sure that both languages are being recognized, that they're making sure that both students are working in both of those partner languages, and keeping that academic content and linguistic work at the highest level possible during this time that we are all experiencing. With that being said, I'm getting into my scaffolding slides. So I'm just going to quickly go through this slide. So number one, remember your wait time. That's really critical. And I'm going to go down to your total physical response is when talking and teaching, matching your gestures with your speech. Also using facial expressions. But another one, I don't know, it's not on here, is to make sure in the color coding of, that's a GLAD strategy, is to make sure that if you're writing different things and you're doing things in theme, in your unit theme, is to color code. That's a brain imprinting strategy, is if I can color coding and shape coding. So that the students they can remember things much easier. Building the students' background knowledge in L1 and or L2. And I will show you that in my, my lesson plan that I've developed. Here's some good other, on the right-hand side, some other different websites that you might want to try. So one here in the box is adjust the workload by half or less for all students. Virtual learning is twice the work as site-based classes. For multilingual learners, this can be 4 times the lift. So please remember that in all that we're doing during this time. This I've included in all of my presentations, and it's some scaffolding ideas based on sensory, interactive, graphic, what the purpose is and when the best time to use them might be and who they're best for. So I think that this slide is another one of those kind of cheat sheets that you might use for scaffolding. Oh, I could put this in and this would help this, or it might be really helpful to these types of learners. That's why I've included that. So materials and resources. Your materials and resources are instructional tools that provide to ELs to support them in assessing content and sharing their understanding. So the first one, key, not just to ELs, but to any struggling learner, are graphic organizers. So the rest of my slides are full of graphic organizers, and it's helping them organize their thoughts, their ideas, and their language. And so here's some ideas: a concept map, a story map, a Venn diagram, the tried and true. There are a ton of them free out on the internet. Another one, we just saw one up above in my presentation, Quizlet. It was a virtual one. And here we are with this little green bird labeling and so forth with our diagrams. Sentence stems, frames, and paragraph frames. This is helping them scaffold and lowering that affective filter, but also helping them to feel part and that they are successful in their linguistic and grammatical form. Visuals, this is called in the GLAD or Be Glad world. This is a Goic, and you can see it, but it is a pictorial way of me visually showing the kids and teaching the kids visually, and then I am reinforcing it further visually with specific graphics, and then I'm labeling it further down in both partner languages. Then the final one is word walls and word banks. Word walls should be very pertinent to the theme or unit that I'm covering. Another Dr. Jose Medina, I thought that this was very pertinent to all of us in the world that we're living, is that every child in the United States right now is a student with interrupted formal education. So all of the kids are SLIFE kids right now because they're of the situation. So now we're into the meat and potatoes, as I would call it, of my presentation. And first we're going to get in, and I've chosen some little M&Ms to present today on. These are my class, as I would call it. And I have a level 1, 2, or 1, 3, and 4, and we're gonna look at student grouping. So looking at structured pair work, structured small group work, and teacher-led small group work. So we're going to be going through how I'm going to make this comprehensible for these 3 learners. Oops. So looking at these three different learners in my class, which is a real situation. So this could be a whole, I could have, well, normally in a dual language or a bilingual classroom, I have a whole set of these kids, or I could have 30 of these kids. And then how do I group out all of these different types of learners? So what I would be doing is I would be examining the students' results from their ELP assessments. And so you would be looking at Julia and Suresh, because they might have totally 2 different profiles, which they do. One is they have totally different home languages, which is but they have very similar access for ELL test scores down at the bottom. So I would be grouping them because I can group them similarly when I'm teaching them. For this reason, I would have them have my lesson plans with them in mind for Julia and Suresh together, where Marco would be in a different group. Possibly, but depending on the size of my class, I could have 1 group for Marco, 1 group for Julia, and 1 group for Suresh, which would be more realistic for my type of class. So I'm going to be working on their oral language, their literacy, their oracy. So I'll be working on their 4 domains throughout this. And so equipped with this information about their ELLs, what they can do in English and their home languages, I can have a clearer understanding of the content and language objectives for all of my students. Then I can be more prepared to identify the types of scaffolds and supports that my ELLs will need to engage with and learn from the activities that I can prepare for my class. And then the differentiated assignments and assessments that I can prepare based off of this. And that's what I'm going to show you what I have done going forward. So here, I put this in here, the can-do descriptors for the English levels, and it's for pre-K through 12. So here we have the 4 domains going down the side, and then we have the levels 1 through 5. So you just, I will be showing you basically the 3 M&Ms, what they'll be able to do, and I'm basing my lesson plans and my scaffolds off of that today. So this this is another one of those cheat sheets or things that I would have at my desk as a teacher or an instructor. It's a wonderful resource from WIDA, the can-do descriptors. It's totally clickable, so I could go into this. It's based on all 4 domains, and it goes levels 1 through 6 in can-do. So if I wanted to know, listening, level 1, what could that person or that student do by recounting? I click right there and it would show me what that student could do, and so on and so forth. All right. Here's my lesson plan that I built out. Normally I would have more with this, but this is just for this presentation. So this is, we have here my 3 ELLs that I'll be basing my scaffolds off. I've created the dual language cross-curricular lesson plan based off of science and language art. And the theme of this will be, is ecosistemas. Oops. Sorry. All right, so what I've decided to do is that I'm going to go, there's 3 main parts to this. This is a UDL lesson plan. There's many lesson plans that you can use. No right, no wrong. And this is an adapted one from McTeague. And so I will go through some parts of what I've done here. So first up here, I added a few of some of the Spanish Common Core up here. I only added a few. There's a lot more that I could have added, but I added a few of them right here. So depending on my unit plan and what language I'm supposed to be teaching in that content language. So if I'm teaching right here, excuse me, if I'm teaching this, I'm supposed to be teaching Spanish language arts, I need to have the Common Core state standards reflected in Spanish. So these Common Core state standards are the San Diego state standards, because I always get asked, well, which ones did you use? I use the San Diego state standards. Then down here, a quick breakdown of this is tier 2, tier 3, tier 2. The tier 1, of course, is more your BICS, your social language. I normally don't include the tier 1 in my lesson plans. The tier 2 and tier 3 are the less common of the vocabulary. These are the 2 kinds that you're going to need to build your KELP. So when I'm teaching new teachers, this is where you go to school, you have to build this up. Students, bilingual students, dual language students, this isn't going to come natural to them. So the BICS, the social language, that's like, they'll get that more easily. This is something that I'm going to be building up in my classroom. So like decomposer, you can see that, ambush, asymmetrical. These are things that, and I've put the Spanish and the English in there because I've got to make sure that I'm bridging and I'm doing the translanguaging here. That's my job as a bilingual teacher, to make sure that I'm accomplishing that throughout, and that would follow the language allocation plan depending on your district of how they want you to, how they want that delivered. So this is where the TPR would be very, very vital. Like for instance, a blubber. So like when I was teaching this, it's a blubber. I might use that to show that to my kids and so forth. Going to the next slide. Here, this right here, the middle part of the lesson plan that's developed, this is really critical in the middle of this, is because this is the UDL of this, and as a teacher, this is what I want by the end of my units, the students to be able to show proficiency in their understanding and to be able to understand the meaning. That I will be constructing all of my activities, number 1, all of my assessments off of this. So all of my formative and ultimately my summative, any summative assessments that I will be. Also, the rubrics that need to be created need to come off of this middle part here too. So that's why this is a critical piece, this middle piece right here. I only built out 1 week for the sake of this presentation. And this has got 3 big parts to it. So this is the first part. I picked Newsela, and how I'll best explain this is because I'm at home. And I needed to, as an instructor or as a teacher, I needed to think of something as in dual language. How could I best deliver something if I couldn't get my hands on something like district-wide and I was at home? How could I still deliver something in both languages, free of cost, which this is right now, and it's quality because I can change the Lexile level. And it's still, and this is Common Core and NGSS, New Generation Science Standards aligned. This is from multiple resources like National Geographic and so forth. So this is very high quality. So that's why I chose Newsela. So here, these are my mini lessons that I will be doing. So this is part of the I do. This is what I will be giving my whole group right here. Then this next part right here is this will be building my background information for my students. You can see that right over here, this Bill Nye the Science Guy, it's in English. I have the English part in there because I am supporting I'm doing a bridge part. Over here, I have a daily writing or speaking prompt that I could be using Flipgrid or Quizlet, or if I'm in a paper and pencil type situation, I can also have them do that way. The Newsela, it can be printed off in paper and pencil also. Sorry. Time for chat and questions.
So one of our immediate questions here is, what grade level is this lesson plan built for?
Oh, that's an easy question. I built this around, because you can see the Common Core state standards I picked were 5th grade, but I can lower or adjust this up or down, the Newsela and all of the articles, the Lexile level up or down to, it goes down to 3rd or 2nd and 3rd grade, all the way up to 12th grade advanced.
Mm-hmm. So we've been having, while you have been presenting us with this information, we have been having a little bit of a conversation with some of the ideas that you've introduced in our chat. And so one of the questions that's come up here that I'll actually pitch to Terry here, because she has the experiences, is would you say that how Schoolology is similar to Google Classroom? So my understanding and my experience with both is that they can be used in similar ways, but they're very different structures in terms of how information is organized. So is there anything else you would like to add to that, Terry?
Sure, thanks Audrey and Kimberly. So I've used both Google Classroom and Schoology, and one of the things with Schoology is that it offers quite a bit more in the areas of being able to not only have students have discussions, but also to offer resources that you would build into your Schoology. So it flows from start to finish very fluidly, and it's very easy for students to be able to navigate the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson. And then the other end of that is, as an educator, as a teacher, I am able to keep track through their grading system quite a bit more easily how the students are doing and progressing with every single lesson that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you were describing that, I would say it's probably halfway between Google Classroom and Blackboard, if anybody has used a Blackboard management system at the university level. So, So we've also had some conversations here about just the different platforms that people have talked about. So some of the participants can just see that conversation in the chat. So we won't go back into that here, but it's been really nice to see that there's an array of materials and resources across districts that people are using. So at that point, I don't see other questions, so I will turn it back to you.
All right, well, thank you. So now I'm going to get into the specific kids or M&Ms. So the first one I'm going to be looking at is Marco. He's a level 1, and he's across the board a level 1 given his situation, his background. So some of the things that he's going to be able to do, I've placed over here on the far right side. He's going to be able to do some matching, some naming. He's going to be able to answer some the WH type questions, who, what, where, when type of questions. So this would be for my level 1 group because I'm going to have more than one just level 1. So that's how I would refine some of my scaffolding for that type of group. So what I showed you in that lesson plan just a second ago, I want to clarify that that's more whole group. But when I'm taking a small group, my small group people, meaning this is what I'm going to be showing you now. Oh, sorry. So here is my scaffold or my modification for my level 1s. So here you can see I put in each one of them, I put what they are able to do at that level 1 level. So it doesn't matter whether you're in a monolingual classroom, whether you're in a bilingual classroom, you're still going to have to modify some of the work that they're going to be able to do. So for some of the teachers that are in those monolingual classrooms, the teacher is going to be teaching maybe ecosystems. So I, as the ESL teacher, or I, as the bilingual teacher, I'm still going to be needing to create what is this level 1 capable of. It doesn't change. So they're going to be able to, here's in this box, I'm not going to read it off to you, but this is what they're able to do. Over here, this can be changed around. So I have, this is, here's one in Spanish. Here's one that's, it says label the Amazon rainforest animals. So everything I'm going to show you in these next slides go back to that unit plan that lesson plan that I created. You would just adapt according to whatever language or whatever the ELP level is for that particular child. But this would fit the level 1. So he's going to be able to answer really simple questions. So escribe los nombres de 3 animales que también comparten este hábitat. Pues you're going to write maybe 3 different things, and I might use this with somebody that might be learning the Spanish language brand new in my dual language room, or I might use this in a lower level Spanish. It just depends on how I'm going to be using this too. Next one. So this, here we have Julia, and she is actually born in the United States. But she's got, she's a level 3 because of, she's got a different situation going on, and she's got a really high level of listening. She's got a level 4 speaking. So over here on the right, I've put again what they're capable of. And where am I getting this? Because I'm going to get that question. I've got those off of the can-do descriptors that were in the previous slides. Again, here's her writing and here's her listening capabilities. So looking at Julia, level 3, here's the scaffolds and modifications that I would do to go with that lesson plan. She could design, and here she's drawing, and she would be making her own rainforest animal. Here she is, I got a word bank over here in both English and Spanish to help scaffold this whole, this is a paragraph frame here of words to do with the sloth. Over here, she's comparing, contrasting an ecosystem and a biome with over here that she's cutting and pasting and matching here. So here's what she is capable of, and I have found different things that I can use to scaffold or modify for her. Going on, because I'm running out of time. Oh, if I can advance the slide, sorry. All right, our last one is Suresh, and he is my level 4. Again, over here on the right, what he's capable of. His lowest is in reading, a number 3, which you can find up here at the right. And then here's my last slide for Suresh at a level 4. I did not do a level 5 because level 5 should be transitioning out. So here, a level 4 ELL, here's what he is capable of. And I have also included what he could be working on with me in his small group work. So based off of that unit plan that I wrote. So I've placed in where he might be working on the different types of biomes that I might be working on. He's got a graphic organizer, and I'm teaching him how to get facts and so forth on to write a research paper. And here's another modification here. They're all graphic organizers, as you can see. Again, do I have any questions, any observations in our chat from anyone?
Well, we did have some questions here, which we've responded to in the chat about if these were lessons that could be used in a classroom for multilingual learners versus classrooms if it's a separate EL lesson. And we've talked about as a response is that all of this can be lessons that are grade level that are accessed by all students and then scaffold appropriately for the students at different proficiency levels.
Yes.
Also noted, there's a couple people who have asked for request access to the if you log on to the Can-Do descriptors, and we'll make sure you can get access to them. It might take a moment, but you'll be able to click into that spreadsheet.
Okay.
That's it so far.
All right, thank you, Ms. Audrey. Now I'm going to finish up, everyone. All right, so these are from some other presentations that I have presented, and these are at various levels, but they still go back to ecosystems in some form or fashion, but they're at very different levels. And I thought, well, I'll put them in because they're still pertinent, especially to bilingual and ELLs, but they're totally different from each other in every way, shape, and form. So here's some scaffolds here. This is coming from Storyline Online. This is, you can see it's Chris Pine. And he is reading Clark DeShark. So it's still dealing with an ecosystem, but you can use this as a mentor text. This is for littler people. And so this comes with a full on lesson plan and resources that you might use with this. So a fabulous resource, by the way. And then here's actually parent resources that you could include to send home. This goes along here. It's about respect, and this book actually's main theme is collaboration, but it's also, it's got the biome of our ocean animals. So, and then here are some specific visuals that I would suggest here, I put up here. And then word work specific. awesome, but rocks, but not like rocks as in like rocks. It's like that rocks. And then sweet is, so these are different words that, and then I added 2 different, again, graphic organizers that you might want to use. Next slide here, this definitely goes with the unit plan, the unit theme that I wrote. I didn't plan it that way, but here, this is also again from Newzella, and it's talking about the Amazon rainforest. And then here are 3 graphic organizers that you can use, totally different. This is more like 3rd, 4th grade level, and that you could use to go with these slides. These, as you can see, are in English, but you could adapt them. This one right here, as you can see, is completely, you could adapt this up here at the top however you would like. Sorry, I'm talking really fast right now, but we're running out of time. All right, so this one, these are Cornell notes. This is best practice from anybody that's familiar with the AVID program. This is something that for our dual language students especially, this is a best practice as far as them learning how to do research. So once that I model this as a teacher, and this is a practice throughout, this is normally a practice throughout a school district, or so forth, that they learn how to take notes and learn how to go through informational text. So I added this in. This is a Newzella article, as you can see, about Puerto Rico. Still goes with ecosistemas, and this is after the hurricane. I can't, I'm sorry, having computer issues. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it clicked into, sorry. It clicked into my Cornell note. Sorry. I'm almost finished, everyone. If I can get into the next, sorry. Okay, and then here's another one. This is actually about these are 2 different, and I have a graphic organizer so that they can do a type of map and topical work. And then here's another Newzella. We have a graphic organizer so that they can go through. This is also science, so I totally need cross-curricular, because there's not enough minutes in the day. Why am I doing that? I never answered that question, because there's not enough instructional minutes given the heavy load of dual language and the 2 languages and the amount of minutes that are required to go through your language allocation plan. So that's normally why I'm teaching cross-curricular. Here again from AVID, vocabulary concept map. So taking those tier 2 and tier 3, I put in this, graphic organizer that you might use. I thought, I can get this, and we have reached the end. So here, please always feel free to contact us with any questions. We're here for you here at the LCC, or Language and Culture Center of Excellence, here at CESA 2, the 4 of us. And also we have our Facebook page, our ELL Ideas at Home, which is totally clickable. You can see the little hand here. I have a handout, or you can also find everything and more here on our bit.ly page. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And I have 5 minutes to spare. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you for taking time to join us this morning.
So we have one last question. Can you share where the vocabulary concept map came from?
Oh, all these things that I found, honest to God, they're found at free graphic organizers. Like I tell my university students, I'm a really huge advocate and fan of AVID. So I type in AVID graphic organizers and they come up. And they're best practices for struggling learners that want to go to prep for college. So that's the whole premise of AVID. So that's why I really aspire and try to use the AVID, any kind of templates that I find for AVID, because they're for struggling learners.
Great, thank you. Those are all our questions. So,
well, thank you.
We'd like to thank you all for joining us today. A certificate of attendance will be sent out after the webinar is over, and we will have all of the resources available in the folder. We'll make sure to go back and double check to see that all those links work so that you're able to have these ready to use resources. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.